Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana Market Update video. Today's the 18th of February. Hope y'all are doing well. Hope y'all had an amazing President's Day. I know a lot of people were off work yesterday. Excited to get into some Reddit posts here today. First and foremost, the top 10 highest selling Lorcana PSA 10 cards of the past week. We'll then look at some current auctions and just talk about some more general overall stuff. Cannot wait for the Enchanteds to come out for Occasions Island. I feel like this set, it's, every card that's released, it's like, damn, like another meta defining card, another game breaking card. It really feels like there's going to be a huge level up in terms of the power of the cards that are coming from this set, and it kind of gives me the sense that it's going to feel like a little bit of a new game, right? Trying to figure out, it's like playing chess for the first time, trying to figure out where you need to go on the board, what play lines, etc. Very, very excited to see what shakes out from the set, and I feel like this just has a amazing potential overall with the lack of locations and some iconic characters and things like that. I hope that the Enchanteds come through. I have full confidence that they will. But if the Enchanteds hit for Arcasia's Island, I can see this being one of the best sets ever released, kind of up there with the first chapter in Rise of the Floodborn, in my opinion. So very, very excited to see what the Enchanteds look like. We have not gotten into yet. Be sure that I will be making videos as soon as we get some reveals on what those look like. So getting into the article here, first and foremost, shout out to Rocket Bits. They posted in the r/Lorcana Collectors Reddit 6 hours ago the top 10 highest selling PSA 10 cards for last week, and I thought that would be very relevant for us, right? This is stuff that we would probably include in the monthly market recaps anyway. So nice to kind of have someone putting out some relevant content for us. So first and foremost, the D23 PSA 10 Elsa from 2022, $7,000. $7,000 is the new floor price for this card. I will say the seller on this, they listed it as a misprint, and they had like one of one rare, like all this stuff, and like the title and the description. It just had like a little bit of hollow, like foil, like bleed or like scratching. Nothing crazy. Definitely not some significant error or anything like that. I'm glad the market did not overreact to the seller's, listing. $7,000 is the new floor for the PSA 10 Elsa from the 2022 D23 collection. This is a card that in a PSA 10 copy 5 to 6 months ago was probably closer to 5,000. It is now 7 to 8,000, maybe even 9,000, depending on the auction, the week, etc. But once again, we maintain this new level of buyers coming in at this price point, and essentially we've established a $7,000 floor for the PSA 10 Elsa, which once again has just kind of continued to level up, and we have seen every week there's a new PSA 10 D23 Elsa at auction, and once those start to dry up, I think we're going to start to see new highs for this card. But they've been hitting the market consistently, and the market has been valuing them consistently at $7,000. Moving on to the D23 PSA 10 Rockstar Stitch, 2,350. Stitch is always the second most valuable 2022. Obviously IP and just the character, Stitch, a very popular character, so he maintains the second spot, but a significant drop off from the Elsa, and I think we're going to continue to see that happen. When you look at things like the first edition Charizard versus the first edition Blastoise or Venusaur, things like that, there's a drastic margin of difference between the demand for the Charizard between that of the other starters, and I think we're going to continue to see that here. And that is also illustrated in the difference between obviously the Charizard to the Blastoise, but even the Blastoise to the Venusaur. The Blastoise holds the premium. We're kind of seeing that start to come to life here in the D23 2022 version, with Stitch kind of always holding down the second spot, Maleficent always holding down the third spot, and then the rest kind of fall in line behind it. So you can see the Maleficent was right behind the Stitch at 2,225 for a PSA 10 copy. Then you had Cruella de Vil, Captain Hook, and Robin Hood at 2,050 and then 1,800 respectively for the latter two. So some strong prices for the D23 cards. Once again, these have been hitting the market very consistently. Many of them very affordable, in my opinion, still, when you think about the actual rarity of the card and the fact that there's only going to be 400 to 500 of these out there. The very first Lorcana cards ever printed, the very first cards that ever went to market. Obviously, there were some demo cards out there, but the first ever cards that went to market that, in theory, should have ever been on the market. The only first edition stamp. A lot of prominence to these cards. These are truly the grails of the hobby, and some very, very strong prices here for those said grails. Moving on to the PSA 10 first chapter Enchanted for Elsa, sitting at 1,550. We did have another sale here at 1,435. Strong price for the card. The card grades very easily. Right now, you can get a raw copy for around 800, so therefore there's not a huge margin on the PSA 10 variant. Makes sense because the card does get a PSA 10 about 70% of the time, give or take. So most of the time you're going to get a PSA 10. If that is the case, you're not going to see a huge multiplier on the raw version. But I think these are strong prices for the buyers. I like this price for the Elsa a lot, especially as we get into any sort of like growth cycle. I think we're going to start to see this card get up to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 by itself. So strong prices there. The art is just undeniable. And it's just a foundational piece. I love that card. We have the Lorcana Let It Go promo for 1,449. Once again, I feel like a strong price for the seller here. You can get a raw copy for the card for around 800 to 900. It's going to get a PSA 10 the majority of the time, and so to see a $500-$600 premium depending on what you get the raw copy for, very strong price for the seller in my opinion here. Probably more closer to like a $1,200 to $1,300 PSA 10 in my opinion. Finishing up with the Cinderella Stout-Hearted DLC foil promo. So here's one that's interesting to me. The Let It Go is widely more available than the Cinderella, but the Let It Go is commanding a higher premium, which just simply does not make sense. I think the market will shake these things out. I think actually someone in the community got this one here for the $1,400 Cinderella. So shout out to them. That's a great purchase, especially when you compare it against the Let It Go. There's significantly more Let It Goes out there than there are Cindy's. So just somewhat overpaid for this is kind of what it comes down to. But overall, strong week for the market in terms of the PSA 10 kind of higher end grill stuff. We need these weeks to continue. We need these cards to hit the market, continue to develop these market prices, and that's happening right now. As we have a lot more PSA 10s at auction right now. Looking at some of these auctions, they end in the next 13 hours here for some of these D23 cards. We have the D23 Mickey Mouse PSA 10 Gem Mint that ends in 13 hours, currently sitting at $2K. We do have an interesting card that I want to watch. It has a Nicholas Cole Auto 10 PSA 10. He's got the mouse doodle there. It's already at the same price pretty much as the one that ends in 13 hours. This one ends in 4 days, so interested to see how that shakes out. We've seen some interesting premiums for some autographs that have been hitting the market lately that have been causing a little bit of an uproar, and I would be fine with Nick signing my cards. I would love to have him sign them, especially doodling on some of the Enchanteds or something like that. But for just a little auto like this, I don't know. It's there's a lot of market behind it. It's crazy. Moving over to the Stitch, we have the PSA 10 D23 2022 Stitch, currently half the price of what the sale finished at last week. So potential here for when you're running these bigger auctions, you really do not want to have them end on a Tuesday night. There's a lot of data and thought into a Sunday night auction end date. A lot more eyes on it. And so just, heads up. I don't know if this is something that Probe Scene always does, as this is coming through them. But I don't know. This could be a very poor sale. We'll see how it shakes out. 13 hours left. A lot of room to run. But there's that has a chance to be a very poor sale. Moving over to Robin Hood, currently sitting at 1,475. 13 hours remaining. We have Captain Hook at 1,525. And then the Elsa, that floor that I mentioned, 7,000. Just kind of sitting there, ready to roll. We'll see what it gets bid up to. I think the lowest on the market, the lowest buy it now on the market was 8,100 last I looked. So could see that get close to it. But overall, the $7,000 floor remains kind of undefeated at the current moment. I wanted to see if we could catch a listing here for the current buy it now on the market, but it looks like, let's see here. Yeah, it's a pretty good description. I was going to alter it, but there's not much to it. Doesn't look like the other, I wish eBay would kind of have some better exact match. Like obviously there's a lot of keywords here. Let's keep it simple. Disney, Lorcana, Elsa, Snow Queen, D23, 2022. I say let's keep it simple, and then I type like the exact same thing. Let's see here. We have a 7,000. That's the one at auction. Do we not have a buy it now? We have some uncommons. I know we have one for sale for sure. Where are we at? We might have to hop over to sold because If the one at 8,100 got bought, there just might not. No, there was one at 15,000 too. Just a poor search result, unfortunately. But let's look at sold real quick to see if the one at 8,100 sold. 9,700 for the one that Nick signed. We had 8,200, 7,700, 8,100 for one back in January. Nah, that's not it. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that 8,100 is still the cheapest on the market for a buy it now. So I think we'll get close to that in terms of the price of the one that's currently at auction for 7,000. But we got exciting auctions ending tonight. If you're in the market for a G23 card, not a bad place to look. It looks like we're gonna have some decent prices here. So shout out to those auctions ending tonight through Probstein. Very cool. Okay, moving on, guys. There are some I want to talk about. We haven't talked about like expected value and things like that of the booster boxes lately. So I'm going to give you these. These are a couple days old, but will still be in a relevant range. First chapter is $176. Rise of the Floodborn, $104. Into the Inklings, $83. Ursa's Return, $73. Shimmering Skies, $74. And Azurite Sea, $93. So if you open a box of these particular sets, this is the value that you can expect to have. It's based on all the known pull rates that we have, and it incorporates any card that's 35 cents or higher into those numbers. Now, what I wanted to talk about is there are some very affordable booster boxes out there right now. If you are looking to open, I will say that nothing's going to be like what we're about to have for Arcasia's Island. There is going to be some very, very good expected value opportunities here. But when you look at some of the boxes on TCG Player, you can get Into the Inklings for 82. This one's not sealed, so I would definitely go for the one at 85. But if you hop over to eBay, you can see Into the Inklings booster boxes for 64, which is 20% off. You even have some at 72. I think there's some down here at 62. So there's a lot of different options. 55. There you go. Sealed case or sealed box of Into the Inklings for $55 plus shipping. Looks like 62 all in. A lot of people buying them. More than 10 available from GNW Flips. So there are very cheap boxes available. Once again, Into the Inklings, $83 is the expected value for the set. So you could get in at a very, very good price here. Order multiple of them, probably save on shipping. Get some very cheap product to open, so keep your eyes out on that. Very good time to open some of those products. Obviously, you can run the same play, look at some of the other boxes, whether it's Ursula's Return, Shimmering Skies, etc. Looks like the cheapest Ursula's Return on TCG Player is 93. The cheapest Azurite or Shimmering Skies is 96. Cheapest Azurite Sea is sitting around 100, it looks like. Yeah, because this one isn't sealed, so around 100. I am curious. Let's see the cheapest Ursula's Return, because I think that has a decent chance at being pretty cheap here for us. We have some at auction. Buy it now, 73. Or no, that's another bid. So, okay, so maybe mid-90s is the lowest on Ursula's Return. So this is an interesting, point now. It is blatantly obvious that Into the Inklings is the most printed set of all time. This set is still readily available. We're at like 6 to 9 months after release now of the set. I am of the opinion that whenever the first chapter came out and they immediately realized how popular the game was going to be and they were going to have to reprint that set, they probably did an additional print run or two of Into the Inklings. So now they're just sitting on a stockpile of this. Now, obviously at $50 a box, on the buyer side, that's very good. Your expected value is much higher than that. You can pull some enchanteds, et cetera, et cetera. But the singles within Into the Inklings are always just going to be less valuable inherently because they are printed just to astronomical numbers. It looks like they pulled back in subsequent sets, like Ursula's Return and Shimmering Skies, Azurite Sea, etc., as those boxes have maintained a much higher floor, even though the fact that they came out after Into the Inklings. And so something to keep in our minds long term, If you're collecting set cards, Into the Inklings are going to continue to get cheaper and cheaper. There's just going to be a lot of them out there. It's kind of, when you think about like unlimited base set, there's rumors that there's like hangers of booster boxes of unlimited base set. And that, back in, the late 90s, there were like people quit printing sports cards to print more base set Pokemon cards. So they truly kind of, the printers were going. If you could print trading cards, you were printing Pokemon. Maybe a similar vein here for Into the Inklings when it came to the Lorcana side of things. Very readily available. With that being said, I just wanted to finish with a more general... Let's see if I can't... I was looking at some stuff last night on just the traditional Reddit here. There was someone who put together a really cool Stitch collection for their kid's room. And I thought that it... let's see here... Don't want to do any spoilers for you guys. Oh, here we go. Perfect. So they put together this little frame and put together some Stitch cards. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about yesterday with like the binders and a very cheap, fun way to enjoy the hobby. Stuff like this I love. And stuff like this, once again, is just what gives Lorcana a fighting chance in this TCG ecosystem that's dominated by Pokemon, dominated by Magic. It's been very, very hard for new games to come in and sustain and thrive within this ecosystem. You look at games like MetaZoo that really came in off a kind of a weaker IP and not really well as known IP with these cryptids, had a lot of like hype and influencers behind it, slowly fizzled out. Now trying to make a comeback through Charlie Herlocker, who is a very respected founder, very respected collector. I think they're going to do really cool things. I don't know if the IP is strong enough to hold on, but I do trust what Charlie and his team are doing. And I was just thinking, like, what made, Pokemon so special is the fact that we were all so entrenched in, whether it was the games or the shows, like, or just going to the store and seeing the, all the different merch and stuff. Like, Pokemon was everywhere. It truly was a cult following, a cultural phenomenon. Very similar to the way that Disney is now, whether you're going to the parks or on the cruises or getting on Disney Plus, seeing the movies, going to the movies, etc. Like, there's you can establish these core connections with the IP, which is, I think, has to be the foundation of any TCG that's really not Magic. Magic is the only one that can get away with it because the inventor was pretty much a genius and came up with an amazing game, and it's got a 30-year track record now. So it's got the cult following, while the IP was just kind of made up by this one person. It's evolved now, and it's got its own kind of just following essentially. But with Disney, it's got this ingrained IP that is so paramount for a TCG to succeed, in combination with the fact that they developed, at its core, Lorcana is just a very fun game. And so when you have both of those things combined, that's what turns into, something like a Pokemon. Now, obviously, we're not even 2 years in. They have to continue to deliver. Nowhere near Pokemon, not even, I would say, 10% of the volume that Pokemon does in terms of overall sales, things like that. But it's clear that they're on the right track record. And the more I think about it, I love that a lot of the like set cards, like in terms of like first chapter Enchanted, second Rise of the Floodborn Enchanted, etc., they've kind of been stagnant for months now, where they're not really decreasing in price, but they're not really increasing in price. It's kind of just like these people that have them aren't going to sell them, and there's just not enough buyers coming into the market to really increase that demand, where the price is going to go higher. But at the end of the day, things like this have to happen. Like, Pokemon went through a cycle where no one cared about it, right? Whenever Pokemon started in terms of the TCG, and whenever Lorcana started, both of them had these insane hype cycles where there just wasn't enough on the market. Now, Lorcana didn't have the print. It seems like the printers to kind of like meet the demand for years and years to come, or they just don't want to. Similar to like what Base Set did. Like, first edition Base Set came out and everyone was like, nope, I want it. It was only available on the coast, never made its way really to the Midwest. And it kind of got ate up by the market immediately. You go to Base Set, it was printed for years and years, or I guess years, and it eventually hit a point where it became very, very affordable. People didn't need it as much. People didn't want it as much. The demand died down. They moved on to new sets, and there was it was readily available for a very, very long time. with the first chapter, we got that first reprint to kind of get out of the hype cycle, and we've got subsequent restocks, and it's expanded to different language variants and across the world, et cetera, et cetera. But there's just a huge demand for the first chapter still, and but what we've seen is there's a lull in the cards, the singles, the enchanteds have really seen a lull in terms of price action, and this has been such a good time period to really shake out some of the people who are only here from the financial side of things. Not to say that that's bad or any ill will towards them. I don't at all. I'm glad that they participated in the market, but at the end of the day, this has been a very stagnant period for Lorcana. I've mentioned it many times. I don't say this is like a woe is me or anything, but like views on my channel are down historically significantly from when Lorcana was incredibly popular, and so that tells me that we're really going through like a organic growth cycle, and really identifying like true collectors, true people who are going to be here for the sustainable future. And if a game like this is going to succeed, those time periods have to happen. Like Pokemon went through some very rough years where demand just wasn't there, right? It hit some very, very tough spots to be in, where boxes were incredibly cheap, cards had no value. Like that stuff happened with Pokemon. Obviously they fought through it, they succeeded, and it took a lot of hard work, and that's a testament to their IP and their developers of the game. But things like cycles like this have to happen in order for new people to find the game, that organic growth to go, people to get introduced to the game. And so I'm feeling very, very good about where we're at overall. And things like this little poster or like wall mount here, collection of these stitches, like it gets back to just this core idea of what makes a successful TCG and how you're going to be able to withstand in the long run. Things like this give me hope for Lorcana, and it just speaks to the overall IP they have behind it. Once again, the game is phenomenal, and those two things are so hard to get right, and it's even harder to break through with the new trading card game. There have been a lot of people that tried this TCG space. There's been two that have really made it work, and a long term, I guess you can put Yu-Gi-Oh in there as well in terms of long term success. But man, just this little mounted collection really got me going. I will say to the person that made this, if they see it, you got to get the collector binder stitch in here, the hollow foil, the enchanted. It's like $5, very cheap, very affordable. Give this mount some shine there. Get the collector stitch in there. The card's gorgeous. It's awesome. It's one of the few. It's very similar to the D23 2022 cards that we talked about a lot in this video. Traditional art, traditional format, traditional border, but the enchanted foil, which is a very nice touch, in my opinion. Really makes the card pop. So get that sucker in there. Other than that, gorgeous and good to go. So with that being said, guys, that is the end for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. As a reminder, I'm going to try to mention this more and more. I do have my TCG Player affiliate link in the description of this video. If you don't mind clicking it and saving it as your TCG Player, like just home page link, it'll be your regular TCG Player. If you went there, your home screen, it'll say /Cardboard Kingdom. If you don't mind saving that for me and putting it in your favorites bar or whatever, I would greatly appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything, and I get some sort of kickback in terms of a percentage or two or whatever on your transactions. And once again, it does not cost you anything. So if you don't mind doing that, I would greatly appreciate it. And other than that, we'll be back with another video soon. Thank you very much, guys. I'll talk to you later.